Hello and welcome to Workday Training. My name is Chad Foost. I'm the Technology Training Coordinator for CIS. Today we're going to go over the basics of what Workday is, why we're using it, and how to use it. The system that we currently use now for electronic records is Banner. We've been using it for about 20 years here at Vassar, and it's getting a bit old and outdated at this point. So we decided to evaluate our options and find an electronic record system that would be a little more modern and more user-friendly. Workday is the system that we ended up choosing. To start with, Workday is going to replace a couple parts of Banner this year. The first part that it's going to replace is the HR and payroll side of Banner. So things like submitting your time, having time approved, benefits, personal information, and things like that. That's the first chunk of Banner that Workday is going to replace. Later on in the year, Workday is going to replace the finance portion of Banner. So things like purchasing and accounts here at Vassar are going to be replaced by Workday. There's a lot of documentation and information about Workday on the Workday Info site. It's a dedicated site that we've created at workdayinfo.vassar.edu. You'll see that it has information such as training schedules and training materials. If you click on the training materials on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see there's a list of materials for running you through basic tasks in Workday. We call this documentation job aids, and they are available on the Workday Info site as PDFs, which you can download and print as you like. So we just want to let you know that that info site is there and is a resource for you to use. So I'm going to start with just the interface, the basic interface in Workday, which is going to, we'll start in the upper left-hand corner. So up in the upper left-hand corner, there's a little house icon. You can click on that. That'll always take you back to this home screen. On this home screen, all these little colored icons are called worklets. Again, you might have different worklets than other people. That just depends on what duties you might have, what kind of work you might be doing. Yours might look different than somebody else's. You can customize this screen. There are other additional worklets you can add to it and rearrange. So I'll show you that later on, how you can customize that home screen. Next to that home button is a search box. Once you get used to navigating Workday, once you get used to what the page titles and functions are called, you can just type in the name of a page and navigate right to it using the search box. And up in the upper right hand corner, you'll see your name, and there's a little cloud icon. That little cloud can actually be customized. You can add a photo to Workday if you want to put in a picture of yourself, or maybe a picture of a cat or something like that. You can customize Workday to make it a little more friendly, so you don't have to stare at that cloud all the time. You'll also see up in the upper right-hand corner, right now I have a little colored number 3. That's telling me that I have items in my inbox, and I'll show you what that is. I'm going to click on that cloud to open this menu. And a few things on this menu. This home option at the very top will always bring you back to the main home screen. So that works just like this button in the upper left. That'll always take you back to the home screen. Below that, you'll see I have an inbox and a notifications box. I'm going to click on the inbox because I do have some items I do need to take care of in my inbox. The inbox is for items that you actually need to take action on. So if there's something you need to do in Workday, whether that's approving a time off request or entering benefit information or something like that, that will show up in Workday with that little colored number up in the upper right next to the cloud. You'll also get an email notification at your Vassar email address that there's something in Workday that needs your attention. And these items will remain in your inbox until you handle them, until you take care of them, whatever they might be. So some of the things that might show up in your inbox as I said before, are time off requests, time that's been submitted if you're supervising someone and approving their time. And you'll see there are a few other things. This employee, this is a fictional employee. If we have any Game of Thrones fans, you'll see this is Tyrion Lannister. He's a new employee and he has not finished filling out all of his benefits information or setting up all of his accounts. So you'll see in his inbox he has a few things he needs to do. He needs to change his benefit elections. The second option here is he needs to decide for payroll how he wants to be paid. Does he want to be set up for direct deposit or to receive checks? He can fill out this information right here in Workday and submit it and finish setting up his payment. This third thing, he has not set up his life insurance, his health insurance. So he needs to choose the elections for that and submit those there. You'll find that there's a lot of things that you can do right in Workday that may have in the past required you to visit HR, fill out forms, stuff like that. A lot of that's been streamlined and put into Workday. So if there is anything that comes up that you need to do to take care of, you'll get an email notification and you'll get that little colored number next to the cloud that tells you you have something you have to do in Workday. Any questions about that? All right, going back to that cloud menu, you'll see there's also a notifications box below the inbox. The notifications are just, for the most part, informational messages. So those are for things that are maybe less pressing. You don't necessarily have to take action on them. You'll see he has things like a message that his time off request was approved. That shows up in his notifications box. Whenever a worker submits time, there's just a little confirmation that says, yes, you submitted this time. There are a few other things that'll show up in here too, like, for example, if the status of your employment changes or something like that, you can see there's a little notification that, hey, you were hired. Your onboarding tasks are ready for you to complete. That was some of those things in the inbox. They were onboarding things that he needed to finish. If tax documents are available, things like that, that might also come into the notifications area. So inbox, stuff you have to do. Notifications area, just stuff that you need to know. Going back to that menu again, you'll see there are 3 more options. There's favorites, there's W Drive, and there's documentation. The favorites will let you actually set up a list of favorite people or favorite functions in Workday that you can easily go back to. The W Drive, we're not sure we're actually going to use that, so don't worry too much about that. That might be used as a storage area for uploading files to Workday, but right now we don't have any plans to implement it. We'll let you know if that changes. And then documentation, I don't know what it's linked to right now, but I imagine we'll probably just link it to our Workday aids on the Workday info site. But for right now, don't worry too much about those 3 functions. And then, of course, at the bottom of that little menu, there's a big yellow sign out button. And we just want to make sure that when you're done using Workday, because there is lots of personal information in it, just make sure you sign out. And to be extra safe, close your web browser to make sure your session is completely done. So just want to point that out to you too. I'm going to click the little house up in the upper left to go back to the home screen. Yeah, Liz. Yeah, so the question is, when you complete a task in the inbox, does it disappear? The answer is yes. When you've done all the steps that are required by that task, it'll just go into the archive. You'll see there's a little archive tab here in the inbox, and this is all the stuff that has been completed. So yeah, once you've taken care of what needs to take care of, that little number will go down, and those items will go to the archive. Mm-hmm. All right, any questions about that quick menu and the options on it? Okay. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the worklets. Those are these big, friendly, colorful icons on the home screen. As I said, there are a number of ways to navigate around Workday. You'll probably find the one that works best for you. Some people prefer to use the worklets to navigate to where they want to go. Some people, they know the pages that they visit often, and they can search to find the function that they want. We'll just go ahead and just click into one of these to start. Feel free to click around and go through all of them, by the way. I'm going to just start with the personal information worklet. And you'll see on a lot of the worklets, the first thing you'll see is a little submenu that divides change and view functions. So if you do really, you want to just go in and change your contact info, change your address or something like that, you can, right on the left-hand side, go to change. If you just want to view your addresses, things like that, you can click on view on the right. I should mention on these computers, because you don't have back buttons on the screen in the web browser on these computers. If you look at your keyboard, up in the upper left-hand corner next to the escape key, there are forward and back buttons and a refresh button. So you can use those just like you would on your web browser.
And is that just for these type?
It's just for these kiosks.
Yeah.
Yep.
When you're back at your own.
Yeah, of course, whatever web browser you're comfortable with will work exactly as you're used to. So, yeah, just for these ones. So in this personal information worklet, you'll see there's quite a few things that you can view and change. You can change your contact info, for example, your addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, things like that. You can update your emergency contacts. This is where you would add a photo. If you do want to add a photo, change that cloud to something maybe a little more interesting, you can do that. You could put in a legal name change request, and you can also change your preferred name. Some folks aren't a big fan of their legal names, and they have a name that they prefer to use. So if you do want to change your preferred name that's used by HR, you can go right there and click on preferred name. There's a checkbox up at the top of that screen that you do have to uncheck, which says use legal name as preferred name. And then you can type in the preferred name that you like and save that. So we know a lot of folks will find that handy. You also see up here in the upper right, when you do log out and log back into Workday, it will update your preferred name up here in the upper right too. So this is for anything that HR might use your name for, awards, things like that. They can use the name that you actually want them to. Any questions about that personal information worklet? There's a lot more in there. I'm not going to go into it in great detail. Oh yeah, absolutely. So pretty much all of the data that's in Banner personal information will be migrated over to Workday, but there are two things that we're asking people to update themselves when we go live. Those are emergency contacts and beneficiaries. So we just want to make sure everybody has those up to date and accurate, so we're asking people to re-enter those when Workday goes live. All right, and next we're going to just take a quick look at the benefits worklet. You can see some of the things you can do in there to change your benefits. So that's the big shield with the heart on it. The benefits part of Workday is actually it's a pretty big change in a lot of ways from what we've been using before. Throughout the year, if there are things that you want to change benefits-wise, we've made it really easy for you to go in and change your different elections, change the things that you need to as your life circumstances change. One of the coolest features of this the benefits worklet is right here in the upper left-hand side under the Change Benefits button here. If you click that, you'll see right at the top there are benefit event types. So if you do have some sort of change in your life and you're not really sure how it affects your benefits, you can sign into Workday, go to Change Benefits, and choose the event type. So maybe a child was born, maybe your marriage status changed, maybe you want to remove a child from being a dependent, things like that. You're not sure how that necessarily changes your benefits. You can go in here and just select one of those events, and then it'll walk you through whatever information it needs to update the affected benefits. So it's a really streamlined way for you to change your benefits when something changes in your life. You also notice for a lot of these screens there is a little Save for Later button down at the bottom, which is nice. if you get started on the process of changing a benefit or accomplishing some task and maybe you just don't have the information at hand, you can just save that for later and come back to it if you need to. So there's quite a few things that you can change in the benefits. You can change your retirement savings, dependents, different elections, things like that. You'll also will also note that the things that you can change throughout the year will be available to change in Workday. And when open enrollment comes around, instead of using Banner Online to change your open enrollment options, that will be done through Workday. And the things that you can change during open enrollment will be made available in Workday. So pretty much anything benefit related you can just do right through Workday at just about any time of the year. If there are steps that do require additional information from HR, like if maybe there's a physical document you have to provide to them or something like that, those processes should walk you through whatever extra steps you might need to do. And also, HR will get notifications of people working through different changes. If there are approval processes and things behind the scenes to push those workflows through. So if you start doing this, you're not just out on your own doing this thing. HR is going to know, oh, hey, this person's trying to change this. Maybe we need some information from them. So it should make things a lot smoother overall. Any questions about the benefits worklet or benefits in general? So the question is, should we email HR to let them know we're changing something? That shouldn't be necessary. I mean, whatever change, unless you just can't easily find it, that shouldn't be necessary. But I'll let Sarah answer that question. She might have a little more insight.
So anytime something gets changed in benefits that we need additional documentation for or something that you need approval for, it's going to show up in our inbox. And the way that you'll be able to track that is you'll have the notification in your box saying that you submitted it. And as it's going through the process, you'll kind of see it going through the steps. Say you had to go out on disability, that's something that we need to do, and you'll see the steps as it goes through on your inbox. If you feel like you submitted something and it either didn't go through or it wasn't processed in a timely manner, that's when you would reach out to us. But for the most part, this should automatically notify us in our inbox that you're doing something.
All right, I'm going to go back to the home screen and we'll just take another quick look at one of the other worklets, which is the pay worklet. Now, this is a new employee. He hasn't been paid yet, but if he had been, you can go ahead and go in here and view his pay slips, anything about his historical pay, tax documents, things like that. Those are all easily available under the pay worklet. If you do want to change your tax withholdings, that's easy to do here as well. You can go ahead and change your withholding elections. So if you do want to change the number of allowances you have, you can just go to this screen, click on update, and update that information as needed. You'll see that there's a form on the screen that just walks you through all the information that you need to provide. And you'll find that's the case for a lot of things in Workday. It'll pretty much ask you for whatever information you need, and you can just walk right through the process right in Workday. All right. I'll just point out just a few more things that to do with navigating Workday. There are a lot of different, as I mentioned, there are a lot of different ways to navigate through Workday. I'll just mention just a couple more. You'll notice that on a lot of these pages, there are, let me show you just a little bit better example here. On a lot of these pages, there are, up in the upper right hand corner, there are little Excel spreadsheet icons and printer icons. Those let you export data from Workday. So if you do have a page that has a table on it that looks maybe like an Excel spreadsheet, you can just save a copy of that page right to your computer. Or you can save a PDF by clicking the little printer icon, which you can then print if you want to. So it's very easy to get whatever information you'd like out of Workday, which is both good and bad, because if you do work on a on a shared computer or a public computer, you just want to be careful not to accidentally download that data to the computer, or just be aware of that. So we just want to let people know that that option is there. It's easy to get your data out, but just be wary of what you download, where you download that data to, so that it doesn't get into the wrong hands. I'll also mention that in Workday, usually you'll see it next to somebody's name, but you'll see these little icons show up, this little rounded off rectangle here with the 3 dots in it. We call it a lot of different things. You might come up with your own name. We call it the brick, the Twinkie, or the Lego. You can click on that little icon, and depending on where you are in Workday and what that brick is next to, it'll give you a lot of optional actions. So if you're used to working on a PC or a Mac and having a right-click function or having a context menu, that's kind of the same idea here. It gives you a lot of additional options based on what sort of whether it's a person or an organization or something like that. It'll give you different options. Because this is me, this opens up a huge menu with a giant submenu, and pretty much I can easily skip right to any of these functions in Workday by clicking that little brick. So that's yet another way to navigate Workday. You also see every page in Workday has a title at the top, and that title can be typed right into the search box. So if I did, from that home screen, want to come right to benefit elections, I can just start typing that in, benefit elections. That'll take me right to that page. So anytime you see that page title up here in the upper left, that's a title you can type into the search box to easily get back to it without having to click through. So if there's certain pages that you use a lot, that could save you a lot of time. So the next thing we're going to show you is what it looks like for an hourly worker to input and submit their time. And we'll also show you what it looks like to submit a time off request, which everyone is going to be doing through Workday from now on. So if you are an hourly worker, you should see you have a time worklet on your home screen. By the way, the student employees will also be entering their time this way, though they won't be entering time off requests. They don't get, and of course they don't have benefits, so that's not going to show up there either. But they will be entering time this way as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the time worklet. And right from this screen, I can view my time off balances. I can see what time off I've already submitted if I want to. And I can go ahead and just enter time over here on the left. So I'm going to go ahead and enter some time in for this week. And it should open up a calendar. Up at the top, you'll see my time is adding up automatically up here at the top. I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a moment. So for a lot of hourly workers who work, say, 8:30 to 5, a lot of them are going to just be entering 2 blocks of time a day. You don't have to do each block of time separately when you get into when you enter your office and leave your office. We're recommending that folks just enter their time at the end of the day. So I'll just show you entering just a couple blocks of time. I'm in the column for Friday today, and I'm just going to click anywhere in this column. It doesn't matter where. I'll click in the column, and it'll bring up a box where I can start entering this block of time. So I'll start by typing in 8:30, and I'm just going to type in A, and you'll see when I tab down to that next field, it just expands that to AM automatically for me. And I'll just do 12 p. That automatically goes to 12 p.m. And because I'm taking a lunch break, my out reason for this block of time in the morning is just going to be meal. And if I do have multiple positions, I can choose which position these hours are for. And I can also add a comment if I want to for this time block. I'll just click OK. And that time has now been input. Yeah.
You should talk about time types.
Absolutely. So for each block of time, there are a variety of different time types depending on your contract and what kind of employee you are. For a lot of folks, just regular time is going to be used. But if you do, say you work while the college is closed, say you have a worked emergency closure, you could choose that time type, for example, too. Or if it's call-in, you can put that time type in. You'll see that at the top of that of the calendar, that it's automatically showing you how many hours of regular time, time and a half, double time are entered. If you are entering a type of time that is a time and a half or even a double time, that automatically gets calculated and added to the top. And if you work more than 37 and a half hours a week to get to time and a half, that'll automatically be calculated as you're entering those hours. Oh, sorry. Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
I'm sorry. So
You know
it's actually 40 hours.
40 hours, I'm sorry.
Can you repeat the question?
So the question is, well, I don't think it was more of a statement.
Sure.
What happens at the top with regards to your time? Do you have to pick overtime? Do you have to pick double time? Workday does all of that automatically depending on what type of employee you are and what type of time you choose. So the differential pay, if you're an employee who normally has that, that will be in your drop-down box. So not everyone's going to have the same drop-down boxes because there's different unions and different types of employees. But anytime you hit the 40 hours, if you're an hourly employee, Workday's going to know to kick that over into an overtime situation. No, so
Sorry, just repeat.
so the question is, as an administrator, do I have to enter if I come in on a weekend or evening? Do I have to enter that time into Workday? And the answer is no. Whatever practice you have right now with your supervisor or manager, Workday is not a substitute for a conversation. So if you have a situation where you work on the weekends and you've talked to your supervisor or manager, and normally that means you get to take another day off during the week, that's between you and your supervisor. Most people in this room probably don't have the clock worklet. That's because we're not requiring you to clock your time in and out. Probably quite a few of you have workers that are going to have a clock worklet, which is why Chad's showing you what that looks like. So if they need help, you'll be able to at least be familiar with the screen. So the question is, if you have a worker that takes breaks as well as lunch, do they have to clock in and out for their breaks? And the answer to that is no, because their breaks are paid. So they're going to need to clock in and out for meal breaks and when they leave at the end of the day, but their breaks that are paid time for them, they do not have to clock in and out for. Okay. So if you're an employee that normally takes breaks and meals, you will not be clocking in and out for your breaks. You will only be clocking in and out for your meal time.
All right, so I'll show you just really quickly. We'll enter the second block of time for this person for their workday. So I'll just, again, click on that Friday column. And they're in at 1 p.m. and out at 5 p.m. And their out reason is just out. And I'll just click that. You can see once you get used to this, it's actually going to be pretty quick to enter your time. You'll see on the calendar, those blocks of time will show up here with a little clock icon, and they're kind of grayed out. This time has not been submitted yet, though it has been entered. You don't have to submit your time until the end of the pay period when it's due. So each day you would just go in, enter those blocks of time, and then at the end of the pay period, submit that time. So I'll go ahead and just do that down here in the lower left. I'll submit that time. Gives me a total of all of the time that I've worked for that pay period. I can enter a comment if I want to, and I can submit this time. And you'll see on the next screen it says, what's the next step in this process? Well, my manager has to approve it. So I, Chad, am Tyrion Lannister's manager, so I am actually in charge of approving his time, which I'll show you in just a moment. But first I'm going to also just show you what it looks like to request time off. Before I do that, are there any questions about submitting your time?
So the question is, if you have students reporting to you that sometimes forget to submit their time or they might not be around, and you also have paper timesheets for them. And the answer to that, as far as I am aware, is that students will be using this to submit their time. If you normally keep paper timesheets and you want to still do that, that's fine. If they're not available at the time of submission, Chad will show you there is a way as their supervisor that you can kind of push through time for them. If they forgot to record an hour, or two, or something happened that they forgot to record their time, I've been told by payroll that they can go back one pay period and adjust their time, and it'll get paid on their next check.
I just want to add that because we're going to have the Workday app, we expect that will be a very handy tool to reduce the amount of occasions when students forget to either complete their timesheet or submit their time, because it'll be so convenient to them. And the other thing, we are encouraging you as their supervisors to use this as an opportunity to talk about Workday, to talk about the advantages of it, the app, and that their practices for submitting their time are made much easier with the new system. And to remind them also that if they're done with their hours for that week, they shouldn't wait until the very end of the week to fill out their timesheet. They should just do it, and then if they're finished for the pay period and it's days ahead of the Monday deadline, submit your time as soon as you've finished working the time. That's the mantra we want to instill with students.
So the question is, are you able to submit time from home? Am I getting that correct?
Or do you have to be on campus only?
So the answer for that is that if you're an hourly employee, you really should not be doing any work from home. So you should be submitting your time at the end of your shift. There is an app that you're able to use, and maybe you're remembering that you forgot to submit your time on the way to the car that day. If you log onto the app to use it to submit your time, legally we need to pay you for that. So that's why the app's going to be great for everyone in this room as a supervisor, because if you're home and you're forgetting that you did something, personally, from an HR standpoint, if you have an hourly employee, they're not allowed to work from home and not be paid, so they shouldn't be using it to do that. So again, as Chad will show you,
Who's the they you're talking about?
It's staff.
so if staff employees are on vacation or homesick on a day when a timesheet needs to be submitted for them, as their supervisor, you're able to push that through for them. And if someone's on vacation, you'll see when you do the time off requests, you're able to put in your vacation requests ahead of time. So if I'm an hourly employee and I know I'm going to be on vacation for 2 weeks, I can fill that out, hit submit the first day of the pay, or whenever. I can hit submit a week before I'm even leaving. It won't show up in the supervisor's box to approve until it needs to be approved, but all of the time off requests like that can be done ahead of time. So the question is, as an administrator, how would you report time if you're working from home or doing travel for the college? If you remember, as an administrator, we're not requiring you to clock your time. So again, however you've done this in the past with your supervisor or manager is how you're going to continue to do that. We're not going to be requiring you to tell us if you worked your 37 and a half hours. Yes, so the question is, if you have hourly employees that in the past, Banner has maybe had a day or two lag where they've had their timesheets available to them. The great thing about Workday is it's calendar based. So as you can see on this screen, it's the whole month. And if you clicked the next arrow, it would be the whole next month. So that's convenient for, say I know I'm going on vacation in May. I just want to put it out there, give it to my supervisor. I can forward ahead to May, and I'll be able to submit my time off request. So for students, they're going to have the calendar as well. So it'll be available as on. So the question is, as a supervisor, will you receive a prompt to approve your person's time? And when Chad gets to that worklet, the answer to that is yes. It's going to show up in the cloud. Your numbers will go up. If you have 10 people that report to you on submit day, there should be a 10 in your orange circle. So yes, the answer is yes. You will be getting a prompt saying so-and-so submitted their time. You need to approve it. It's going to be both. It will be both an email to your email account as well as show up in the cloud.
All right, so for this particular worker, I've submitted time. I'll just show you quickly what a time off request looks like. You can easily get to that. If you do have the time worklet, you're already in there entering time. There's a little drop down here that'll take you to request time off. But for the rest of us, from the home screen, there's a dedicated time off worklet with a little suitcase on it. So you can just click on time off and request time off. You can view your balances if you want to. I'm going into the negative because this person hasn't accrued much time off yet, but that's okay. I'll be able to request time off. And you can see again, it takes us to a calendar. Now this one's done in a monthly fashion. So if I decided I'm going to take a vacation day in April, I'm just going to pick a day here. You can select one or more days. You can click and drag to select multiple days. This screen right here doesn't show you that I'm highlighting these days, but you can see it does say 2 days, and you can try it yourself. You'll see how it works. So you can just click on multiple days to select them, or click and drag if you want to select one or more days. So with 1 day selected, I'll go ahead and go down and click on 1 day, request time off. And the first thing I need to do is choose what type of time off. And for administrators, we're going to see jury duty, personal days, and vacation, and I think that's it. For other types of workers, they might have quite a few different types of time off to choose from. Administrators are going to only have a few options. Other folks might have other options. So in this case, I'm just going to choose vacation from that list, and you'll see it automatically filled in 3.75 hours, so half a day, which I want to take the whole day, so I'm going to just go ahead and type in 7.5. You can type in the number of hours that you want to. Different types of time off are measured in different increments and for different workers. So for some folks, vacation time is measured in days. For some, it's measured in hours. So just keep that in mind, that different types of time off are measured in different units, but it'll always tell you what unit you should enter for your time. So in this case, I'm going to request 7.5 hours. So I'm going to request a whole day off on April 12th. I can enter a comment here if I want to for my supervisor. I can even add an attachment if I want to. I don't know why, but you can.
Well, for jury.
Oh yeah, there you go, jury duty. Yeah.
So the reason that's there is for jury duty, you get a jury duty summons that Human Resources keeps in your files. So now instead of either faxing it or bringing it over, you can scan that right on jury duty, and you're done.
There you go. Or you can, put pictures of your future vacation on here, or your past vacations. Yeah. So the question is this a Google-based product? No, I don't think so. So we're still kind of working on that question.
So the question is a personal day the same as a sick day? And again, it depends on what type of employee you are. For administrators, we do not track sick time, but some of you may work in a department where you do on the side, not HR required, but track sick time for administrators. And if that's the case, you're going to still do that as you do now, but personal sick time is not tracked for administrators. Unless, like I said, your department already does that and that's a practice they want to keep doing, that's completely up to them. So again, the question is, I see a balance in my time. Where did that come from? If you have to remember, this is a test environment, and we may have done a lot of things with your name during the testing process, and things may have been dumped in there that shouldn't have been. But again, on April 1st, if you log on and your time is not correct, please contact us. But for today, it could be off because we may have been fooling around with your time. The question is, as an administrator, do you accrue your time, or are the 22 days, we call it front-loaded? The answer to that is that they are front-loaded. So when you log on, you should see the amount of time that would be for the fiscal year. Some employee types are allowed to go into the negative for different types of time, and administrators are one of them that can go into the negative for vacation time. So if for some reason something carried over or didn't carry over, you're going to see the amount of time that's allowed for you for the fiscal year. Yes, so the question is, as the administrator, if you need to carry over time, in the administrator handbook, it states that you need to use it by December 31st of that calendar year. And yes, that is going to start happening. Workday is automated to do that. If you have carryover time that you don't use by December 31st, on January 1, when you log on, it will no longer be there. So the question is, should we go back and track the time that we've used during this calendar and or fiscal year? The answer is, again, this is not a substitute for speaking to your manager or supervisor. In Workday, it's going to show the amount of time that you have for that remainder of that fiscal year. If you have days that you haven't used, that you've spoken to your supervisor and manager about, you should use them as you've already discussed with your supervisor or manager. The reason that the administrators are being asked to track their vacation time now is when we are audited at every year, the auditors come in and say, what's the, thank you. What's the liability? What's your vacation liability? If everyone at Vassar took their vacation time right now, how much money would you need to have on hand to pay it out? If everyone left right now, how much money would you need to pay it out? So that's why we need to start tracking this, because we've not ever been able to have a really great answer for that. So now we have a tool that we can use to track that, so we're going to take advantage of it.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and submit this time off request. Clicking that big green submit button. All right, so I've submitted some hours as this worker. I've also submitted a time off request. Now I'll switch over to the supervisor side and show you what it looks like to approve those requests and to approve time. All right, so I'm signed in as myself now. I am a supervisor for Tyrion Lannister, and you'll see right in the upper right-hand corner, I have a number 2 by my cloud. That means I have 2 items in my inbox. So let's take a look and see what those are. I'll click on the cloud, inbox. Well, look at that. We've got a time off request. You'll see as soon as that time off request comes up, it opens up this little chart here. This gives me an idea of who else on my team might be taking time off at the same time. If there were other folks that were taking time off or requesting time off at the same time, I would see their names listed here, each with a different color, and this chart would show me how many days they were taking off at around that same time. So it gives me a really easy, quick estimate of what kind of coverage I have, what kind of who all is going on vacation during this time. So I can just close that little chart. I get a summary of the time off that was requested, and I can also view his balances if I want to. I can enter a comment if I like, and I can, if there's something that I don't like or he needs to fix something, I can go ahead and just send this back to him, or I can just approve it right here. So I'll just click that green approve button, and his time off request is approved. He will get a notification in his notification area of Workday that'll tell him that his time off request was approved. And again, anything that you're getting as a supervisor that you need to do in Workday, you are getting an email notification that someone has given you something to approve. So team time off, I haven't used that a whole lot. I think that's more just to view. Yeah, I think the inbox is the preferred way to do it, just because you'll just have all the things in a list to just take care of, and then you'll know which ones you did and which ones you didn't, because they'll get removed from the inbox. I don't know if there's another easier way to do it than that. That's just the way that we've been showing folks how to do it, but maybe you'll find your own way. I don't know if this time entry approval page has its own page in Workday or not, but I think the inbox is still going to be the easiest way to deal with that. Yeah, and
paperwork and review the time.
yeah, and you might find that that's easier to use the team time worklet. I don't know if I repeated the question, but the question was, should I use the inbox to approve requests, or approve time, or should I do it some other way? But again, there are multiple ways to accomplish these tasks in Workday. You might find one that works a little bit better for you. Yeah.
So, also bear in mind that this is a learning process for everyone, and when you have employees that submit time, they may hit the submit button by accident in the middle of their pay instead of done. It might be like a normal, oh, I need to submit this time. That's going to show up in your inbox, and if you see on the bottom here, you can send it back. Because that might happen a lot the first couple of weeks. People might just be like, oh, submit, submit, submit. And you can just keep sending it back to them until everyone kind of gets used to which buttons to press when. There may be quite a few submits in your inbox. So be patient with that with your hourly workers or vice versa.
So same deal with time approval. That'll show up in your inbox as well. It'll give you a summary of the time that they have submitted, and again, you can just approve that or send it back. If you decide to send it back, you'll see that it pops up a box that requires you to put a reason in for sending it back. So that just prevents you from just sending it back and they go, well, why did I get this back? You have to have some reason to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and approve that time. And now that process is completed. And you'll see I don't have that number on my inbox anymore because I took care of those 2 action items. So there are a few different things you can do for, if you're going on vacation, you need someone else to do approvals or things like that. You can actually set up a delegation, a temporary delegation. So if you go to the search box and type in delegation, I'm going to just go to my delegations, I think is the right one. Yep. And then there's a button to manage delegations. So if you temporarily need to have someone else approve things, you can add a delegation, a temporary delegation. You do have to put in a start date and end date, a delegate, and then you can choose the various types of processes that this person can approve. So you can actually get really granular and choose a lot of different types of processes, or you can just say for all business processes or for a specific business process, things like that. So again, this is temporary. We're not expecting people to rely on this long term, but if you do need to give someone else the opportunity to approve some things, you can do that. And you'll only be able to delegate to folks on your level, so peers or up. You can't delegate down. It's just to note that. Yeah, Sarah.
So another thing to note about delegation, if you are out on a disability leave or a workers' comp leave, that's done through benefits. And one of the questions that benefits has to answer when we're putting someone out on a leave is, who are their tasks going to be delegated to? So it's not going to be lost in space. If you're out, Patty Jo or I need to put you on leave, one of the questions that's asked of us is, who are they delegating their tasks to? So if something happens to you, that should not be a concern to you. We can delegate someone for you. In the case of Patty Jo and myself, if you don't tell us who to delegate, we're always going to delegate up.
One other thing that I do want to mention, just as an aside, you'll find that if you do try to submit a form and there are required fields that you have to fill in, when you submit, you'll get different errors. And there are 2 different kinds of errors in Workday. There are soft errors, which usually show up more as a yellow color, and there are red ones, which are ones you have to take care of before you can proceed. So usually the yellow ones will be more informational. The red ones will be, you actually have to take care of this to move on. So in this case, 3 errors showed up when I tried to submit this form because I didn't fill out the required fields. If I click on the little error tag over here on the right, it pops up this box and it says, oh, these are the errors you actually have to deal with. and I can just step through those and see what they all are. So if you're working in Workday, one of those errors pops up, you're not sure what it is, you can just click on that little tag on the right and it'll tell you what it's trying to warn you of.
Need to set up someone to approve my student or employee's timesheets, this is exactly where you'd go. You'd start typing delegation in the search box. One of the options is my delegations, and you'd click on that and you'd get to this screen. I just wanted to say an example of a soft error for people who are hourly or have people who are hourly that report to them. Maybe something like working through a lunch. And things like that. It'll pop up a different color, like Chad said. It's like a yellow color, and it's more of a, did you really want to do this? Did you really not take a lunch today? Did you really not work your 7 hours today? It's just Workday's way of reminding you that something might be off.
So I'll just show you just a couple more things, and then we can wrap up. I'm going to just go ahead and go back to the home screen really quickly here. As I mentioned, you can actually customize this home screen. You'll see, for example, I have a little birthdays worklet on my home screen. There's a little inbox. If you do want to have the inbox right on your home screen instead of hidden up here in the cloud, you can add it to the home screen as well. So to change the worklets so that are on our home screen, you click on this little gear icon right here. Over on the left-hand side, you'll see the required worklets. Those are worklets that you can't change. Those are assigned to you, depending, again, on your responsibilities and your roles. But over on the right, you can actually add optional worklets. To do that, you just click this black plus sign to add a row, and it will just be blank to start with. But if you click in that blank box or click on this little list icon on the right, and then click on all, it should show you a list of all of the available worklets. Now, we haven't played with all of these. We don't know what all of them do, but there might be some functionality in there that's helpful for you depending on the kinds of tasks you're doing day to day. So obviously the inbox is one of the most popular ones, but there are a whole bunch of other ones that you can add and take a look at. So I'm just going to add another one here. You can add as many as you want. You'll see here's an example of one of those soft alerts. It's just a yellow notification this time. And this one's telling me, if I click on it, if I'm using the mobile device, if I'm using the mobile version of Workday, this worklet might not display properly. Okay, all right. I don't care that much, but thanks. Once I've added, I can also reorder these worklets if I want to by clicking the little arrows next to them to move them up and down the list. And when I'm done adding worklets, I just click OK, and then done, and that should take you back to the home screen, and you'll see now I've got this nice anniversaries worklet added now too. I don't know what that actually shows me, but let's take a look. No upcoming anniversaries in your team in the next 2 weeks. But if you had a work anniversary, you could surprise somebody by remembering it because you had that little anniversaries worklet turned on. Or, you remembered my birthday. Well, actually, Workday remembered it, but it makes me look good. Yes. So you can customize that home screen if you want to. And then just one more thing that we like to show folks, because Workday is tracking who reports to whom and the whole structure of the college as far as the hierarchy goes, there is an org chart for the whole college that's automatically generated by Workday. So if you want to see where you are on the totem pole, maybe you don't want to see that, you can start typing in org chart in the search box. And I like to just do the my org chart option because that starts with me, so I can see where I am. So again, up in the upper left, I just started typing org chart. I chose my org chart, and you'll see here I am right in the middle. I have a orange bar on the top of my box and yellow, and a little 1 next to my cloud. That just tells me I am a supervisor. I have one person who reports to me. Folks who don't will just have a blue bar on the top of their little box. You'll also see when you hover over these boxes, again, there are those little bricks, and you can click on those to see more information. In this case, because Tyrion Lannister is my a report, he reports to me, I can see a little more information about him, and I even have shortcuts to, I could just, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to terminate him, but I can change, I'm going to promote him, okay, I'm going to promote him or change his job, and I can do stuff like that. If it's someone else I don't have authority over, I'm usually just going to see things like their contact information, stuff like that.
Should it be showing hourly employees as well as administrators?
It should show everyone, but again, this is a test environment.
Okay.
This data is not necessarily accurate.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So a couple of things about the organizational chart. It isn't completely up to date, but when you log into Workday as of March 20th, you should look or have somebody in your department look to make sure it's accurate, because that also is your guidepost for who approves timesheets, for example, or time off requests. So the question came up earlier about delegation. When somebody's on a vacation, you can look at your chart and see who else within your group would be qualified to be delegated to if you needed that on a temporary basis.
I just looked at my org chart. Is it going to be updated, or do you think, or it will be by the 20th? Okay.
Test data. Yeah, and in fact, the HR office.
Pretty close, but
Yeah, and this is important, for obvious reasons. Also, it's better for all the offices and departments to have a better sense of who directly supervises students, for example, because there is a certain amount of proxying going on, and that we're really looking to move on from that habit. So this will really be a very accurate reflection of who reports officially to people throughout the chain. And as I was saying, the HR office has been systematically talking to all the senior officers to make sure their org charts are accurate. Perhaps some of you have then been spoken to by your senior officer to get it sorted out, but we are relying on all of you. And as of March 20th, if you notice something that isn't correct, this is an example of it, let us know and we'll get it fixed. And this would definitely apply to supervisors of students as much as supervisors of the adult employees at Vassar. While I'm up here, there's a little cost marker portion of the session that we may as well go into. You'll see the dates listed on the blackboard over here. Yeah, this definitely does not to be recorded, but that's all right. Where you see them on the whiteboard up here. So hopefully you all have seen the letter by now that came from Mary Ann and Steve. Either you saw it via email or you got the hard copy of the letter that we sent through campus mail that tried to explain why we have this staggered timeline for the implementation of Workday. So I just want to go over that again to make sure that everybody's clear about it and you can ask questions. So on March 20th, that's the first day that certain Vassar employees will begin doing time entry in Workday, and that'll be staff and students. Now, it turns out that March 20th is also the beginning of the second week of March break. So most of the students who work on campus won't be here. So, and that's true for some staff as well. They don't work over the break. But when you think about Workday, you wear two hats. You wear what we call the employee hat, and you wear the manager hat. So on March 20th, as an employee, if you're a staff member, you start entering your time into Workday. But on March 20th, as a manager, you also have to become aware of time off requests or anything else that an employee might ask of you within Workday that would be an action item that would show up in your inbox. Now, bear in mind, of course, that March 20th for those employees is the beginning of their pay period. So it's 2 weeks later when you would be getting, most of your timesheet approval notifications. But as of March 20th, if you supervise a student or a staff member, you have to have that extra awareness of your role within Workday. Okay. Second time post is March 27th. In that case, that's when service employees and safety and security officers begin using Workday. And again, if you supervise people in either of those categories, again, you're putting on your manager hat. And then on April 1st, as Chad said, that's kind of when we all end up on the level playing field, because for those employees, administrators, and faculty who don't supervise, that's when you'll start using Workday for your personal needs. For benefits updates, or if you're just keeping track of your benefits information, or if you need to submit a time off request to your supervisor, you'd begin doing that as of April 1st. So the question is, someone had agreement with their supervisor to have vacation this summer, and they arranged that a year ago. Will that need to be re-entered into Workday? And the answer is yes. So, and also bear in mind that the archive of Workday will only exist from April 1st forward. So, for example, there's some information that you'll be able to access in Workday. Let's say manager history. It will only reflect who your manager has been from April 1st forward. Now, one classic piece of archival information that people ask about are pay slips from back pay. Okay, you will only have a window of time to access old pay slips that precede April 1st. So until June 30th, you can access those old pay slips through Banner. After that, you'd have to put in a special request in to HR. And the Banner information that's being transferred over is not going to completely go away. We're not just going to trash it the day that Workday goes live. But for all intents and purposes, it's going to be an archive, and what you're going to really be expected to be able to access and use via Workday, really think April 1st forward. Any questions about the timeline or any of the roles within the timeline?
All right. If there aren't any more questions, thank you for coming. Feel free to, if you do want to keep exploring, you can click around, but when you're done working, just click the cloud in the upper right and the yellow sign out button. We're still here to answer any questions you might have, though. So,
can I just quickly take the roll? We're just kind of keeping track to make sure no one slips through the cracks of our training. So I know some of you, and I'll mention your names, and don't think I'm dissing you, because